an ASMR video for a moment where I'm just breathing really heavy into the headset because I'm like, catch my breath. So yeah, I got through levels, and then here in the basement is where the magic happens, and
Yeah,
had to go upstairs because without the headset, then we're dealing with the situation of where this echo happens, and it's terrible.
yeah. I've been there, done that, man. I couldn't. I remember first time I tried to do like an online chat thing. I was screwing it up because I didn't have headphones. I was getting the feedback. It sounds like butt.
It's so dope to see you. I
You too, man.
it's tough lining up the show, especially when I haven't spoken with somebody in a long time. With you, it's been years.
Oh yeah, I don't even know the fuck. Like how long has it been? It's been so
I
long,
want to
bro.
say sometime
Like
around 2012. So my adventures have taken me coast to coast across Canada. Been very fortunate. Yeah, I'm a resident. Yeah, love it. Love being in Canada, and I think that it's just an incredible country to see and travel. Often we want to get on airplanes and visit places. Obviously, it's got a beach because for 6 months out of the year here in Canada we get super cold. but
yeah,
but
no
but
doubt.
in Canada, it's amazing. One of the places I've been to quite a bit is Alberta, Calgary, and Edmonton, and had the opportunity and great fortune to cross paths with our guest tonight, Mr. Jon Delerious, who's super stoked to have with us here in the utility room. Um, Want to get your story, which is fresh for me. I don't know it. I don't know how you came to be, and how you came to be with one of the coolest DJ names probably ever.
It's it's stuck with me for like 25 years. So
Is
yeah, it's so funny how
is
I came
that
to
the
be that
game
name.
length for you? Is that where you're at now? Is 2 decades and a half?
I was laughing because I'm like, I don't want to give away my age. Well, I don't really give a shit actually. I first started imagining being a DJ when I was 14. That was 30 years ago. So I was 14, 15 years old, and I remember seeing, and my first taste of like DJing was on TV on Much Music. I saw Rhapsody or it was Canadian shows, Rhapsody. So I was watching like hip hop DJs, and I'm like, oh, that looks so cool, man. This guy up there with the records, and I'm trying to figure that out. And so like I didn't really officially start DJing. I was probably 14, 15 years old, literally with my mom's turntable and some old records and like a tape deck. And just I bought a mixer from Radio Shack for $100. That was I still have it like in my room over here. It's amazing. I kept it. I just thought it was a cool piece of history. And it's like the radio realistic
Realistic,
mixer with like
right?
two VU meters on the top. And I was lucky enough to get one with the crossfader with the like it has a click in the middle, so it's so not current, man, what the DJ say, but it's like so slow. It's just like but anyways, it worked, man. It got me going and I could mix two different things together. So we could mix like I could mix records over top of a tape and vice versa and just totally get excited about that, and that's what got me going. And then it wasn't until I was in high school where I got the name Delirious, and that was at near the end of high school. I was DJing a bit, and there's a local radio station in Calgary, called CJSW. It's our like long-standing community radio station here, university station, and they had one of the early like electronic shows that they were playing techno and all kinds of different genres, but all within like an hour. It's called Radiant State. Wicked show. Big ups to Robin Marcos. Marcos lives in Toronto.
Is this
Hopefully, maybe
the show's
maybe
not
you'll see it.
running anymore?
No, it's long gone, but it was a really good introduction for a lot of Calgarians back in the early 90s into electronic music. Because, as you know, there's no internet back then. And like you relied on tapes from friends or like, maybe the odd radio show or whatever. But that they were really cool. And those guys had a opening and they said, any up and coming DJs who want to come on the show will help showcase you. And I was at my buddy's house. I'm like, he was like, Dave was like, yo, you should do it. Jon, you should do it. I was like, cool, man, let's do it. I need a DJ name that's good because I tried all these dumb names and like, as a young kid. And I remember I looked up in the dictionary, I looked up the word rave because I was super into raving. Like raving was super cool. This was new. And it said rave to be delirious. And I was like, that's it, man. DJ Delirious. I gotta go with it, Jon.
Ah,
And then because I was DJ Delirious for a number of years, people started calling me, "Oh, Jon, you mean Jon Delirious?" Blah blah blah. And then Jon Delirious took over as my kind of music production moniker, and then I just kept Jon Delirious. Like DJ Delirious was like slowly turned into just Jon Delerious. So that's how I got the name back in the frickin' day, brother.
Wild. Do you
I'm having some
That's
tea.
it's
Bear
perfect.
with me.
Sometimes I'm outfitted with a cup of coffee just to and you know what the funny part is that sometimes actually the show's recorded first thing in the morning. We've had some guests on the show that have not been from Canada, some that used to be from Canada and now they're elsewhere. And because of it, I've had to go and do the show um, at like an odd hour
Oh yeah.
so that I can capture the people I would love to capture at a time that makes sense because the time change or it can
8 hours ahead,
yeah,
whatever it is, right?
in
Heck
some
yeah.
instances, it could be that. I love the story. I love the recall on the name, and I related exactly to what you were saying with a test drive of the names. I was in the same position,
Yeah.
and I'm not quite sure when the change happened. It felt like to me DJing, if you were going to go off and be a performer, having an alias was the way to go. And even if it wasn't
You needed
right,
it.
even if it was just John Smith, if that I'm giving obviously a super broad example, but this would be the thing.
Yeah.
And then somehow a transformation happened where it was having your real name. This is now cool, and so
That's
right.
right. It wasn't like
No,
that
it
at first,
wasn't.
dude.
That
Trust me. You all these weird names, right? Like,
I was a massive comic book guy, so and big into X-Men. I thought to myself, I should be DJ Colossus, big,
yeah.
steel and strong, and this was my vibe. Um, and I'm in a similar place. My family's been calling me Jello since I don't know, I could walk. It's my initials, and so boom, yeah. Did you ever?
Fits you,
Did you
man.
ever? Did you ever?
You'll always be Jello to me, brother.
Do you ever just look at your name and consider what could be associative with it? Do you look at like delirious
Yeah.
stuff? Do you ever like Google images and try and see how it could be associative to incorporate into the branding of what it is that you're doing?
Kind of, but not really because it's just evolved so much for me. Like it's weird. Like delirious doesn't exactly mean being delirious to me. It's sort of different. It just becomes like a name. So whereas like I've personified it to myself, but I know what you're trying to say. Like I don't know, it'd be weird because I've had a friend who does a lot of design work. He's like, yo man, he's got like this straight jacket guy, and I'm like, it's not really me, man.
Right.
Like I get it, it's cool, but like maybe when I was younger and like we were going for like a stage persona. I could have probably gone with that, but I never really did. Just saying. But I just like it's like become my name, man. It's so funny. Like so many people think Delirious is my actual last name. It's crazy.
So
Like what
besides the
nationality is that?
radio, I'm curious. The radio thing with that influence coming in and doing this as a DJ, were you always in house music? Did you
No,
start?
no. Yeah, early on, man, it was whatever I could get my hands on, bro. It was like back in the day, it was so hard to get music in Calgary, like especially all vinyl. I was playing, and I was actually, I definitely gravitated more towards harder stuff. The younger I was, the more energy, the more banging, the more like up tempo grooves I wanted, and I was fiending for that stuff. And I think it's because the early raves that I was going to, that was the shit that like got you going. Like you were so excited, and the crowd was pumping, and to be fair, that was probably the sound is what I would almost. I think early people call it hardcore, but back then it really wasn't. It was like breaks speed now, maybe 130 beats per minute in and around their max, with like heavy break beats and like epic piano riffs and shit. Like it was uplifting, kind of high energy, cool stuff. But that was
Right.
early rave music for me, and I remember really gravitating towards that. And then actual hardcore, like uh, drum and bass when I was younger, but like more like high, harder hitting dance stuff. And then I remember hearing house music for the first time, and it just kind of clicked for me. I was like, oh, I kind of get this. This is like it resonates with me a little bit. I'm like, I can really dig this and feel this. And luckily, there's a couple record stores in town that were starting to carry the music. There's a shout out to the Attic, old school record store, like RIP, but they were dope because they helped introduce you to rave flyers, places to get more into the electronic music scene in Calgary, and also buy music. And I remember going in there and just like being this kid looking around, like, yo, these guys are so badass. All these DJs in here, they know their music so well. And I was just a kid trying to figure out my shit. But then eventually you start to learn labels, you start to learn sounds you like, and you start building a collection and maybe making bad tapes that you think are awesome. That was my story, making bad tapes for friends that I thought were so sick. I'm like, "This tape, bro, is so good. My mixing is so good." And then, of course, 6 months later, you listen, you're like, "Oh shit, man, I
What
sucked."
have I
I
done?
was definitely getting better.
What
It's
have
just
I
like
done?
slowly, it's like getting better and better all the time. But yeah, man, that's the early days for me.
But what was the accessibility difference, would you say, between then and today? You're talking about. I'm not, I don't just mean. I mean, because I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm not ignoring it. So the question, actually, I'm probably not phrasing it right. What I'm thinking about is this: is that when you did go to the store and you saw the
Yeah,
flyer wasn't on screen, so it wasn't in your hand on a phone, and it wasn't on your computer. I mean, that happened obviously afterwards with message boards, and people started scanning their flyers so that they could put them onto the threads. Um, but before that, the flyer itself, the importance of it, because it was tangible, and you were able, you're bringing it home, and it would. I'm assuming, I'm guessing here. Maybe everyone's obviously different, but I'm assuming this landed on your coffee table, and then people would come to visit, and this became like a tertiary tier of marketing for the party, for the rave.
absolutely.
But the only way to actually see it was to have it in your hands. So I'm wondering about the accessibility of this, and I guess the idea, because it's transformed. Now, if you want to go and see the flyer, quick, real fast, and show it to somebody that you're standing next to, or or send it to them, and then it's theirs. It's now on their phone. But if they didn't make it downtown, if they didn't make it to the attic and pick up the flyer, the only way that they would see it is if they had it themselves, or they went over to somebody's house that already had it, or of course went to the attic, right? So, do you think that this accessibility? Here's the question, I guess. Do you think that this accessibility has changed the vibe in a way of where the anticipation is not as strong as what it was then?
No question about it, dude. The anticipation now is just, oh well, there's another party the next night. I can go online and see this DJ anytime I want. You know what I'm saying? Like when you had this event that you was on a flyer that you were looking forward to, you were so stoked to go because it took effort. You're like, man, I have to phone a number to find out where this location is. I don't even know where the location is on this thing. And your buddy's like, what do you mean you don't know the location is? Yo, man, the night of, you got to call this number and you might meet a guy who might, it's just like the whole freaking thing is completely different than it is now. And I think the anticipation and to be fair, like it didn't matter who was DJing at the very early raves that I was going to. It I couldn't have cared less who was DJing. It was just the going to the event itself and being with these like-minded people, and the music was obviously important, but just the dark vibe, getting into the music, exploring that culture, man, that's what was so exciting to me. And that's why I think you'd be so stoked to see this flyer, share with your friends, and like get your crew together and everyone's rolling to the party. It's a little different. Like I do think that people definitely genuinely do get stoked. Like I get stoked to go to parties and events now still, obviously, festivals or whatever's going on. You're pumped to go. You're pumped to play. But I just think it's like this underground thing that we got to experience at that in that era is just so
Mystery and
cool.
adventure.
It's just so cool because you didn't exactly mystery and adventure. You didn't know where it was. You might be going around the city on a wild goose chase till freaking 1 in the morning, and you
That's
finally get to
right.
the party.
Till
Who
you find the
knows, right?
dance floor. There
That's
was a
what I'm saying. And then
euphoric there
it's
was a
just like,
euphoric moment from the
yeah,
discovery.
oh, buddy, goosebumps. I'm just thinking about it. It's like so stoked. And you just go till 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, whatever it is. Then that's kind of like often, I don't know, man. Just like can't wait for the next one. It's just like crazy. And also, you would get flyered at that event for a possible upcoming event too, right? So it's like this little ecosystem. While you're at that party, people are talking about the next one. Here's a flyer for the next one. Yo, check out my thing. Here's my tape. Oh, cool. You're a DJ too. Cool. What's up, man? Like just little community, right? And that's how things grassroots grow.
Right. So here we are now, but the community is able to grow even exponentially because we're online together now. So the accessibility on that has changed. The messaging back and forth can happen in a moment. As soon as it's in real time, and we weren't dealing with real time then.
Exactly. And I gotta say, it's a funny thing, like, being an older dude now, like not old, but like being lived through this. talking to like some pals. I'm like, thank God there wasn't friggin' cameras on cell phones back then. Hey, thank the partying and some of the crazy antics we were doing. Like, thank God it's not frickin' saved for the world to see. Whew. Not saying I did anything bad, but you can use
I
your
just
imagination. These kids today, man. I know I've got so I have two teenage sons right now.
what?
Yeah.
Do
I was gonna ask
you?
you about your family. Yeah, I've got two teenage kids, dude. Which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
crazy
I'm
because
a rave dad.
they're the same
They're
age
not.
I was when I was first exploring this scene and culture. It's wild, dude.
That is. You know what? It's yeah. Hey,
Hey,
rave dad. And so, and I want to say there's an extra special prop that I give to rave dads because it's a different thing. It
yeah,
changes, obviously, but I mean, it's a separate change. It's something else. I'm saying that we're having this conversation. We're talking about the mystery and the adventure. I don't know if it's been deleted. It's just that it's transformed to something else. But we're not promoters. I think to myself, as performers, we've used the new technology that's been accessible to us so that we can go ahead and get our message out in a different way. I'm not quite sure if you're still using vinyl. I mean, I can see the stack of records behind you.
yeah. I've got like a chunk here and a chunk behind this wall and underneath this table that I'm on. I got a nice little collection and stuff. And I mean, when I'm playing now, I've got like my stream tonight. I'm playing it's CDJ 2000 Nexus 2s, and then I run a old Rain rotary mixer as my favorite mixer. I got the MP
Yo,
2016. Love that
nice.
thing. So that's my current setup, or a DJM 900 or whatever. Like if you're doing a show, that's going to be everywhere you go. Pioneer mixer for me, anyways. But I do love vinyl, and I do like going back. Usually, maybe I do in this whole pandemic, since we're not doing a lot of shows, I'm not doing a lot of gigs. I've relied on Twitch for a lot of my streaming and a lot of gigs, and I'm doing like Monday vinyl days some days. So like one day a month minimum, maybe twice a month, digging up the wax, playing all vinyl. I don't do a lot of parties and events on vinyl unless it's a special vinyl night, like it's focused on that because I mean, I lived through it, man. Like I love it. There's not I can't explain how much I love vinyl. Like vinyl's the shit. But there are a lot of benefits now, obviously, with using, CDJs, or if you're using a computer, obviously there's a lot of cue points. I love the how quick I can load a track up. I can loop it. I'm more creative now with the tools that I've got. But there's something beautiful about putting a record on and playing. Obviously, we all love it. It's great. Like if you've been through the era of carrying two crates of records in a bag to any gig, you know how heavy those bastards are, or trying to fly with records. You've done it tons. It sucks, dude. Like these things are like they're awesome, but they're beasts, right? So it's nice to be able to roll in with your one bag. I got my bag with my headphones and my freaking USBs. I always bring like a backup CD thing I never play in a million years, but just to make me feel good. And it's just like so much easier now, bro. It's
I was thinking that, I've talked about how the more that things change, the more they stay the same. We talk about the changes and how it changes things, but the action ends up being the same result. Carrying around 80 pounds per arm with a record bag and a crate. The crate got checked. The bag came with me, and I somehow was able to squeeze it onto the overhead, the carry-on department. That's why you
I've
had to
done it
show
so many
up.
times.
You
Oh
had to
my
be
god.
first at the gate because you didn't have the top tier ticket for all the
Yes.
flights. So if you
Yes.
were in class B or section 2 or whatever the next sections to be called up for the
You're just
boarding, yeah, you had otherwise you if you were last and you were late to show up at the gate, there would be no space and they'd see the bag and they'd be like, "You're going to have to check that." And you're like, "Nope.
no.
Yeah, I'm not checking this. I can't." And they're like, "Well, that won't fit in the overhead." You're like, "Oh, yes, it will." But you get to the overhead and it's absolutely stacked and you're not going to be able to fit anything inside. And there's been a few times of where I have had to sit with my feet, like propped in an awkward way for hours so I could squeeze the bag underneath the chair just to make it fit. And then I'd do weird things too because I'd be like, oh no, like the bag, it might not fit overhead. So I'd be squeezing records into the crate just to make it fit. And the crate is literally like you could see it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
expanding and it's looking at me. The crate, you can feel the emotion of the crate going, dude, this is a bad idea. And you're like, I gotta make this work, you know?
Yeah.
But
Dude, trust me.
yeah, for sure, it's absolutely relatable. What I was thinking was when you're talking about and the adoption of new technology and adapting with it. This is something that promoters have done. I mean, it's the whole reason why tickets are digital. I get that it's a sanitized vibe, going to an outlet online and picking up your ticket, and then getting a code or a scan, a QR or something to say that you can get into the venue. This is as soon as that process starts. I've done it, obviously. When it happens, there's something about it that, like, even when I get the confirmation in my email, it feels lesser than.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, even
a
yeah.
form of excitement has been removed. That element is
Isn't it
not
too
there.
convenient? Is it too convenient? That's what I'm saying. Like borderline. It's
So
just
so I wonder about the conversation being flipped on us and about the convenience of what it is that we're doing, and how, all of a sudden you can grab a USB key, a 16 gig, 32, whatever it is that you've got that you're rocking in your pocket. I don't know, maybe you've got a terabyte box that you're running around with. You've got your collection of records on it. Isn't that easy?
too easy.
Right. And then I think to myself, I have thrown parties, but I'm not like a promoter. I would never look at someone and be like, well, I've thrown 10 parties. I don't know if I count them. So I'm a promoter. But no, I'm not. I've thrown parties. So that's it. That doesn't make me a promoter. I couldn't imagine, obviously, the intricacies of trying to do a festival or even a regular nightclub. Throwing one party and being a one off. I guess you're not thinking about the outcome as your bottom line. But as performers, that's what we're thinking about. Obviously, I would not want to start a set without being paid. I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to, because then I'm gonna be thinking about it over the course of the set.
yeah. It's
I don't
weird.
want
I know. There's been too many times where I think that's one thing that you and I have probably learned over time. I don't
Yeah,
know, man. It took me a while. Like there's
it
a few
does.
shows where it's like, oh, it's all good, man.
Right.
I've heard how many times. Okay, this is a classic promoter slash club owner slash I don't even know. It's mostly club owners and promoters who are like, bro, we just didn't quite sell as many tickets as I thought we were going to tonight, man. I'm sorry, but I know we talked about this, but I'm
It's
just
gonna
like,
have to
at
be
first I'd be
that.
like, oh man, that's all good. I'm just happy to play. And then
Right.
after a while, you're like, fuck that shit, bro. Like, I hear you, but I still got to get paid, dog. Like, this is just how I make my fucking money, man. Like,
Right.
sorry, shit's
Right.
real. So there's been too many times where I just be like, yo, man, I understand that sucks, but we gotta work something out. Unless it's like a straight flop, then of course you work it out. But like we're talking like a night where you can look out and it's busy and everyone's having a time and the bar is bumping or whatever, and they're trying to pull some greasy move on you. Like, come on, man, don't pull that shit
Right.
off.
Right. Well, there was that. There was, and the worst for me actually was the airplane. I've got a couple of airplane stories that I could share right now that are just, the idea that you get on an airplane to go somewhere and you
Oh,
haven't.
exactly.
I had one where this was like pre-internet, pre-message board, where they put a bunch of really crazy names on a flyer. This was, I believe, in Arizona, and there was no way to double check whether or not these artists had been confirmed. and
Oh,
and these promoters went and sold the party out and bought all the B and C level DJs on the flyer, like myself, flights, so that if there was, this was like the start of the internet, so I think there maybe was like a pure rave or something. I can't remember what was in the States as well. um so there was something enough to that kids would be like, I got my ticket, and I know that this person is coming. I've emailed this person. They emailed me back, said they're really excited. This conversation was taking place, but I landed at the airport, and literally like an hour goes by, two
oh
hours goes
my
by,
god, that's the
3 hours.
worst.
I'm trying to call different numbers. No one's answering the phone. No one's picking me up. I don't know anybody there, so I'm like,
What do you
finally
do?
6 o'clock in the morning, walked back to the gate and said I got to get back to Toronto.
Brutal, bro.
It happened. And
That's
another situation of what you were just recalling as well, where you go and you play, and at the end of the night, there's a reason. I had a promoter absolutely lose their mind in a washroom on I'm not sure what, and got kicked out of their own party, and and it was someone that I'd worked with previously, so I thought it was okay, but not, And then
oh
and the
yeah.
bar manager knows nothing about it. They're like, we can't help you.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this, bro. So
Yeah, I know
sorry.
nothing
We'll have
about it,
to
man.
talk to so and so
Good
tomorrow.
set.
Or you're like, dude.
Yeah, good set. You need to ride back to your hotel.
What's that, brother?
You
Yeah,
need,
do you need right
you
back?
need,
He's like,
you need
"All
to be
right,
right
I'll just
back.
walk. Don't worry about it, man. We're all
Good
good."
set.
Yeah, that's why it's nice when your hotel is really close to the venue. That's always good, just in case.
But here we are now, obviously. At the time, it was completely miserable what was going on, but I've got a huge smile talking about it right now. I
I was
couldn't
gonna say,
possibly, right?
learning experiences that make you better and smarter and all those things. And
Sure,
grateful
but
for the good gigs. Grateful for
but
the
this
good gigs,
becomes part
right?
of our adventure as well, right? Like the yes, the learning curves around it and trying to figure out how to navigate through it. It just became a lot easier so that when I was getting booked for the out of town stuff, it'd be like you can't start the flyer until I got half the funds and the plane ticket and the hotel. Show me
Oh,
these three things and then go ahead and say whatever you like afterwards. Otherwise, it's like I don't know what's going on. It seems a bit whimsical while it's happening, and it's
no,
difficult for me to plan my own life around that, obviously, for anybody. I mean, you can possibly imagine this kind of job, and it seems like, obviously, it's rather simple if you just look at the mechanic of it. Be like up there performing, getting paid, doing what they love, super super awesome. But then there's, you'd be like, yes, you're not wrong.
I know.
However,
I know. No, it makes total sense, and I felt so nervous to ask for some of those things early on. Like, it's just basic, like, because if you're gonna get on a plane and fly 3 or 4 hours, some cities you do not know, all you barely have this is the you just have, like, a cell phone, like, with, like, one of
right,
these, like the
yeah,
Nokia flip
the
open.
flip.
I don't have smartphone. I got, like, a friggin' travel book telling me where to go, like, all these kinda crazy things. Just the assurance of having a bit of a plan in place makes you as a performer feel so much better. Like, I got a deposit, I got a flight, I got a hotel, whatever, I'm good now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's
I can
right.
go and
I'm not thinking
feel
about
good.
anything except the music and doing the best that I can for you. I'm not considering anything else right now. All I'm thinking about is delivering exactly what it is that y'all are expecting.
Boom.
I wanna do the right thing.
Hell yeah,
Um,
bro.
this that was awesome. I really loved that. It's you're right. It's absolutely relatable. It's funny to think that, because we're all doing different things, but we're also kind of doing the same thing.
Oh,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. So cool.
when you first started getting into house music and you're discovering it, what was the lead for you to see the artists or the labels that you were fond of? Was your exposure strictly from the record store, or was this now the start of the internet and you started discovering stuff that was either across the pond or in America?
Yeah, at first it was just through the record stores at first, and then and you know, I started to discover the music, and then yeah, of course, things started to happen like late '90s. By the late '90s, I was already collecting quite a bit of good house. I'd say from '96 to 2000, I was already getting pretty into like some of my favorite. Well, now are like considered to be classic releases, but old school record labels, man, like Strictly Rhythm was just pounding them out, but, like, all these great old labels, and
Nervous,
it was cool because Nervous, oh god, yeah, Nervous, shout out, man, like, respect, they're still killing it, those guys.
right?
Um,
I was really into classic records. Derek Carter's, and I bet he was someone. So is it Luke McKenna?
yeah, Luke, Nordic Tracks.
Okay, there it was no, he wasn't on classic. That's somebody else.
Oh, you're
I
thinking
wanted
Luke
to talk.
Solomon.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
no problem.
right.
Classic's the bomb, dude, wicked label.
Yeah, there was a run on classic that happened in between. I wanted to like 98 to 2001, 2002. I felt like there was just a run on it where it was like I stopped listening. I'd be like, that's a new classic. I'll take it
Oh, I
because
just would buy it every time, I wouldn't even listen, it's just like, "I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it," yeah, for sure.
because I'm assuming that this was Derek's pick. I have no idea. I'm making a wild assumption right now. I'm assuming that the pick was to always have two or three cuts on it, and one of the cuts on the press would be like a beats a pella or just what
Yeah.
sometimes called a dub, where it would have the removal of all these strong elements that were the keys for the track and have just bass and drums, and it would be two
Such
three
a good
minutes of
tool. Such a good
right,
tool,
which
like,
is
as a
which is
DJ,
what it
right?
was. Be like, okay, as soon as you see the third deck, be like, here, pull out that classic, so I can go and slap it down and make that magic happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. That era, like early 2000s, it was just the golden era, man. I think like the for me, the real classic house is like 95 to 2000. That's like crazy classic shit. Like there's some older stuff than that, but for me personally, in my mind, my era, 95, 2000 is like such a golden era. And then I just went to work from about 2000 to 2010. I was going off just buying music like crazy. And that's when a little bit more Jack and House kind of came around, this more swingy, chunky, heavier, harder hitting shit. Like that's when we were hanging, bro. Like We were hanging out early, like 2003, 2005, 2002, or
Well,
like we were
you
hanging
were doing
before that.
shows with Dominic.
Oh
Were you
yeah,
not
we were
with
hanging with
Dom
Dom.
G?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't had Dom on the show yet. That's definitely going to happen. I just I it, I'm moving in a jolted place. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's intentional. It's going to make sense at the end. It's
Cool.
it's all part of the plan.
Yes.
So it's Canadian labels.
Yeah.
This was a thing, and you brought up Nordic Tracks, and I remember they had some strong releases. What were, would you say, the great labels of the late '90s, early '80s of for house music in Canada?
No question, Stickman, Aquarius, Nordic Tracks. I mean, there's your top three right there, in my opinion. There were other ones. There was a couple of Calgary labels that were pretty decent. They're smaller, but like the big heavy hitter, Stickman for sure. That was big. Hold on. Help me out. What's Aquaviva's label again? Right, Definitive, huge.
Definitive.
Bit
Yeah.
love Definitive. Big ups to John Aquaviva. Lucky enough to play with him a bunch back in the early 2000s and learned a lot from him. He's a G, man.
Canadian legend.
Absolute legend. Same with Plus Eight, like Richie Houghton.
Oh
I
yeah.
never got super into the like that style was I it's wicked. I can listen to it more now and be like, holy fuck, this is so crazy. But like at the time I was like, that shit's so hard, man. I'm into like my nice deep house.
Right.
Like, but at a rave, it was just like, oh, this makes sense, or a big party, you know what I'm saying? That was just
Yeah,
so good.
Speedy J pullover.
For sure, man.
Right.
Yeah, so that shout out to Definitive, Stickman, Aquarius, Nordic Tracks, obviously, Plus Eight, man, killer
Were you
stuff.
listening to anything off of Turbo, or was that too
Oh,
techno
Turbo
for you?
Tiga, yeah, of course. Turbo's great, man. Big ups to Tiga.
I'm thinking about who is still releasing house music in Canada. What labels are you paying attention to? Any house music labels in Canada that are
One of the weird things, like I think for me now, is just like the sheer absolute influx of labels. It's almost impossible for me to like know what country every friggin' label's from. Like I can tell you right now that there are tons of good Canadian labels that I didn't even know were maybe even Canadian. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's some really great labels that have popped up, and there's a lot. It's in 2000, like I'd say 2020 to 2021, like even going back 4 years, man. You know how easy it is to start a label now. It's like you just go you get like you can get like an A&R company to, you don't even have to press vinyl, bro. You just have to like find a company to distribute your shit, get you up on iTunes, get you on all the platforms. And I mean it obviously isn't like so easy that everyone can do it. It does take a lot of drive and stuff, but I mean like there's just crap tons of labels. Whereas before oh, hold that thought. DNH, almost forgot. Nick Holder, sorry Nick, love you, bro. So sick. That's a great Canadian label. But I was just thinking, like for labels
another
now, I don't
legend?
know, man. I just keep finding amazing artists. I just want to take a second. I don't want to. I think like there's so many crazy producers now that are popping up. Like when you go record shopping, or like record shopping, when you go online and you're looking through tracks, it's like sifting, man. You gotta like give yourself. I have to give myself a few hours sometimes to just like and these are usually labels or artists that I've seen before, and I'm still going through this sheer amount of releases. It's crazy, but there's just so much good music right now. It's wild, dude.
I'm wondering what the difference is between, for example, the attic where you were shopping earlier, uh, to what you just talked about right now. Were you not on your hands and knees in the crates sifting?
Oh, you were for sure, but I mean you've got like 200 records to go through versus like 20,000 songs
Oh,
just
okay.
spewing out in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Like and one weird thing too is like we could probably touch on this, but like all the subgenres, like what was once techno or tech house, for example. Tech house is a good one, or hard house is completely different than what it is like 10 years ago, which is completely different to what it is 5 years ago, which is completely different to what it is now. Like new disco and like all these cool terms, and like what's tropical house? I don't know, man. What's like all these and you're looking through the shit and you're like, well, what's this subgenre? Oh, cool. Organic house. I've seen that on Beatport now, and I'm like, fuck is organic house, dude? Like they're just making shit up. It's wild, dude. But it's like,
Is it though? I mean, like for example, like let's go back way back. I'm not quite sure. I don't think that they're making music anymore. But Dub Tribe Sound System.
oh, love Dub Tribe.
Okay, so this to me was deep house,
Mm-hmm.
and I think also like Mark Farina, Ohm Recordings.
Yeah.
This was deep house.
That's
So that
house, yeah, for sure. But then now that would
okay,
be called some other thing. It'd be like new disco,
organic
organic,
house.
tropical. Like, well, Dub Tribe would definitely be on the organic tip, I think. And
Right.
that's just like, is it, so if I like, I've got a conga drum behind me here. I don't know if you see it, and I've got like some shakers. So if I put that in a track, is that now organic house because there's actual drums in it, or like I don't get it, man. Do I need more tambourines in my shit, or like it's just such a weird term for me. I just laugh. I was like, well, house is house, bro. Like I don't know. Anyways, it makes it harder for these dudes to find music because you're like so pigeonholed, you know? It's like you're allowed to play whatever you want. You can play like tech house to deep house to soulful house to frickin', and that's what's cool. You don't just have to play one genre. That's the thing that I think some new DJs maybe get stuck on. Like, I'm only a tech house DJ, bro. Tech house only, or whatever it is, whatever your genre is. It's just like, don't pigeonhole yourself, bro. If your shit bangs, play it. It's fun. And be good enough that you can transition through some different styles. You know, that takes some skills.
How often were you at home and jamming? Was this something that you were doing every day? How did you get to the place of where you felt that you were comfortable enough to go off in front of people and play and not go through a train wreck situation?
Took me like I hate to admit it, but I feel like it took me like a couple years to get good at beat matching of like actual practice, like to the point like not beat matching where I can line up the beats, but like really lining shit up. So I feel really confident. I would practice all the time, dude. I just love music so much. If I came home from school or came home from work, first thing you want to do, maybe crack a beer, pack a fat one, like whatever, just relax, get into some music and just jam. I would do it all the time. Just listening to music and trying to learn from, magazines. Like I get like a DJ magazine or whatever. I'm like looking for cool things. You find artists or like just learning about music and being a student of music and then applying it by practicing and just hearing things and trying to layer things and pick different sounds apart. I think that really helped me get into music production around like 99 and 2000. That's when I first started putting out music that I released was about 99, 2000. And I think being a student of it and DJing and constantly listening, just I could hear elements in every song and I'm like, oh, cool. This will go nicely with this. And you learn that from DJing. And then that translates to maybe piecing together compositions. So, but
Did
I would
you
DJ all the time.
did you have gear that you were making music with, or were you strictly were you digital?
I had like minimal gear and a computer at night. Like in the late 90s, I had like just like an old beast of a computer and a cracked copy of Cubase that my friend hooked me up with, which was so badass because like, early internet, like he knew how to do that shit, and I owe him, man. He hooked me up. I couldn't afford like 600-800 bucks for some computer software program back then, right? You know what I mean? Living like check to check, pretty modestly. Uh, but that and plus, dude, when you're spending 200 bucks a week on vinyl as a young guy not making a lot of money, I was spending 150 to 200 bucks a week pretty much on all new releases. That was a big chunk of my income back then, right? So you're selling tapes to supplement your money, all these things. So we could talk about that in a sec, but like getting the production thing started, and it was a total challenge to learn that software, man. In 99, the old Cubase, because I didn't have a lot of there's no manual, man. I didn't have like YouTube to go and fricking learn all the shit. You had to like grind it. So I would like go, okay, how to get an idea, and then luckily I had a friend or two who kind of knew it, but you learn a few basics and then off you go. You just keep it going, and that like opened the door, and obviously it was pretty crude. So when I listened back to some of my early shit, but it got better and better. But yeah, man, love it. Just loving music gets you so stoked and puts you in a good place where you can just hear these sounds and you're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to try to put this on top of this and this? And you're like, oh yeah, man, I could do that. Just give me a month, I'll figure it out.
Were you still jamming when you got back from the record store? You got all this new records. This is immediately becomes your practice point. You want to hear all the new music, and you're rocking it. Is this still today? Are you grabbing all of your tracks online and then immediately shutting it down and opening up your DJ stuff and jamming?
Differently, it's different now. I am still doing that, but not quite with the exact same enthusiasm because I have my setup now at my house. I've got a great studio. I'll usually buy music. I'm I still can, I will admit, I still get very stoked to play new music. Like when you buy some new tracks and you're like working on, you've got like, a new playlist, maybe 10 tracks, for example, or 12 tracks, for example. And and you get to play it for that first time, for that first set. Like, luckily that's a nice thing of having a weekly stream. I get to look forward to doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, man, I
Right.
get stoked. I get stoked to play it, but it's like that feeling. Like, I can remember coming home from the record store with a little chunk of wax, and you're like so pumped to put that on the decks at home. It's a little different with vinyl and coming home from the store, because I got all the music. It's here. Like, dude, when I download music on, because we're all on Macs, when I got the iTunes up, like, I can literally, it's on my phone, and I can listen to it on my car on the way home from work. It's like all synced up. It's a totally different experience, but I'm still stoked to play it out for people, because I know it, there's going to be a cool little interaction. People are going to dig it. So
This is
my
awesome.
wife just brought me a Blizzard. Yeah, Lori. Shout out. She just snuck it in like this. I was like, thanks, babe. I probably shouldn't eat this on camera. Thanks, babe. Mm. Well, that's a good
Perfect.
wife right there. Lucky, I'm lucked out.
All right. A true Dairy Queen.
Oh my! Oh, well played, sir.
Cheers. I'm. What happened when you started going to record stores in different cities?
Oh yeah, that's the best, dude. You get so stoked. I remember. Okay, so well, before I answer that, that got me thinking about something else, actually, because one of the things that we used to have to do, and maybe people, if you're a new DJ or you've been DJing for a while, maybe you never got to experience record store culture, because it basically was a culture. Like, by the time, you know, like, I would go on Thursdays in town to the record store, Ferocious or Giant 45. We had a couple of really great shops. Ferocious was awesome in Calgary. Big up Steve and
Amazing.
the crew. So sick. So you'd
Yeah,
roll in
great
on
store.
so good. Thursday or Friday, it depended on the week, and you'd go for record day, like when they got their new shipment. And if you had an in, whoever's working knew that they would pull a little chunk for you of stuff they thought that you would like Yo Delirious will like probably like this funky house stuff right here. Can probably pull a little chunk over here for when John comes through. And then you go there and you meet with all the other dudes. You get to see all the other DJs or girls who playing, and like you talk about your shows. You could see the flyers. You could just kind of like, it was like a little community, which was really cool.
Hear what
um
everyone else is playing
for sure. Yeah, you're
in
like,
real
oh shit,
time.
in real time, and you're like, oh man, are you gonna take that? Because that is sick. It's like,
That's
no,
right.
man, that's
Yeah, yeah.
fine.
You'd have the
Sorry.
conversation.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And like, there was only enough music for, like, you had your track. So it's not like now, like, I could buy that song, you could buy that song, anyone could download that song and play it. But at the record store, like, that record is kind of like yours till the next week or 2 weeks when the new shipment comes in for the other guy. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool. Like, you had your little selection, that was your secret weapons or whatever. That was pretty rad. And then what we would do is I would phone Vancouver, or I'd phone Play D Records in Toronto, right? I had a friend, Tyler Stadius, who was working in Vancouver, T-Bone, such a sick DJ. And you'd call him and he would play the record over the phone for you. So I could hear, he's like, yo, Delirious, I think you'll like this. Like, yeah, I think that sounds good. It sounds like ass because it's through a fucking phone, but yeah, I think that's good. And like, that's how I'd fucking buy records. And then it's crazy, man.
John, I'm laughing right now because again, I'm saying it. I probably sound like a busted record on the show, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. I'm still listening to music through a phone. I don't know about you, uh, right?
Well,
It
yeah,
it's
except you're
become the
not
primary
playing.
reference. For me,
Oh,
it's like, yeah, if it sounds good on the phone, chances are it's gonna sound really good in
oh
front of
yeah,
me.
when you
So
play it out, yeah, it's true, man.
right,
That's funny.
exactly. Like be like, wow, okay. It actually makes you more curious to take it to another device.
Yeah, and then also, just to answer your question, you were so stoked. Like, as me, if I got to go to another city and check out their record store, always a pit stop early in the day. If you come to a new city, you have to go to the record store. Then you would meet some of the other DJs that maybe you're playing with later, and build a quick little relationship, and then buy some dope records that maybe your local shop doesn't have access to through distribution or whatever the case might be. They have their own little network of cool artists that they're bringing through, and so you could get some cool little pieces of your own sound from other cities that make you unique too, which is kind of cool.
Excellent. And also, I want to say like a secondary form of guerrilla style promotion where, you're in the shop and then you buy the records and you leave, and that becomes a conversation from the remainder of the day. Oh, we just had John in the store. Yeah, he's playing tonight. Are you going?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
totally, man.
he just picked up these 4 records. Would you like to hear the records that John just picked up? And then, of course, there'd be interest if you were a Delirious fan.
That's cool.
It is. It's something. These water cooler moments that happened for us ravers that now is really digital, because I'm not quite sure what retail outlet would serve the purpose now, because our formats have changed entirely. So unless we were going to a store and bringing all of our keys with us, and then inserting them into a machine and then scrolling with each other,
It's
I
like
just think
it's like
can
yeah,
you
how
imagine,
boring is that, dude?
you look
For your
over at the
phone.
screen like somebody else's homework in class. But what are you
Mm-hmm.
looking at? Oh, it's new tool
You
rooms,
can't
eh?
read that. I can't see that anymore. Give me my glasses, man. It's too small. Get my reading glasses on, bro.
Maybe it would work. I'm not quite sure. It's a funky idea. It certainly would bring us all back together under the same roof in the middle of the week, which is what it was. Is that and we'd see each other potentially 2 times over the week, and then another 1 or 2 times over the course of the weekend. And this familiarity with each other is what made the community so strong. And then the format changing, I feel that also changed how the community interacts. Yes, of course, there's tons of interaction, but the interaction that's happening is happening via our thumbs, and it's silent, save for the clicks that are happening on the screen.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
it is. It
Agreed. I
is.
couldn't agree more, man. Nailing it.
Nailing it.
Nailing it, bro.
Help us. You've got 3 tracks in your record bag on your USB key
Oof.
CDs. They are 3 tracks that you know and love. They never leave your bag. They're old, they're medium, they're brand new, they're unreleased. These are 3 songs that you know and love that are either going to absolutely light up your floor or rescue it. You rely on them to be your favorite. What are these 3 tracks?
That's amazing question, because like there's probably more than three, man. There's
Of course there
definitely more
is.
than three. There's tons. I mean, one, so brand new heat from myself. I've got a new track, just came out on Nordic Tracks less than a month ago. It's called Prism. That is a heater. That's been just, it's like a secret weapon for me. And the cool thing is, every time I play it, or when I drop it, I always get, oh, sick. What is this? What is this? And that's always a good sign for me from other DJs, that it's kind of unique, it's different, but it still hits hard. That's a great track. I would
We'll hear it.
say, man, I love That Pagan Thing. It's on Pagan Records. That's an old class. You gotta look that one. That's such a cool track, and it's called That Pagan Thing on Pagan Records. This is a record somewhere back here I can grab right now. It's probably just one of the first ones in there. I love listening to that record. That record, I don't even know what year it came out in, but it was so ahead of its time that it fits in beautifully now, the same way it did 20 years ago. It's one of those tracks, man. Absolute heater, right up there with like F Communications The Way or something like that. That's such a good track. And then I love me a good old vocal track every now and then, like for the end of the night, if I've been playing a long night and I've been banging it up for people and they're doing their thing. I would say one of my favorite tracks for that would be, it's Wahoo. I'm having a brain fart, the name of the track. I'd have to look it up real quick. But yo, man, kind of like live drums, disco-y, but not too disco-y, deep house, but still dancey, great vocal hook, beautiful song, man. Big up Wahoo,
Amazing.
so sick. And
If
there's a
we
million.
were of I don't I could imagine you being a DJ without having obviously a bunch more that you would want to throw in, or titles that compete with each other. Be like, I love this record, but fuck, I love this record too.
I know.
If you were to go ahead and summarize to somebody where you're at today with house music, how would you put that into words? Because earlier on in our discussion, we were talking about the ideas of subgenres, how they're sitting, and how it is that it's affecting the way that you're looking for music, and what it is it making you think that how other people are looking for music, and where that places them. Maybe in a place where it could be a rabbit hole, or potentially maybe marination. What would you say Jon Delerious is? How would you describe your sound?
Well, I feel like right now, just I think it's more or less just because I've been sticking with it. Like I never really got into DJing or into making music to be like a star. Like I thought I wanted to have some success, but I wanted to do it because I absolutely love this music so much, man. Like I'm here for the long haul. Take me or leave me, but I'm not going anywhere. So for me, I think my music has come quite like my production skills have gotten way better in 21 years. They freaking better have. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like I'm in a good place now where I really understand like it's taken me years, but you really understand like elements of songs that like EQing, finding places for things. My sound has gotten better because I'm able to use it's so the equipment and the software we have now is just so powerful and so amazing. The tools we have as creators is just so beautiful and amazing that we have. So that's really helped. But I feel like one thing I've noticed with my sound, like I don't really fit into a great mold with my music that I make. It's always a little different. Like it's not like I'm not making always tracks for the dance floor. I'm not making like it just depends on the the song per se. But I find for me, like I've been making like music that's a little different and a little weird for a really long time, and it just feels like in this last however many years, things are catching up to it where like people are looking for that more, which has kind of worked for me. It's like I'm not making your box perfect little this is like House 101. I'm making cool, weird stuff with weird sounds, weird elements, really like organic sounds, which is funny. We talked about organic house, but like real drums and real shakers, real samples. I'm smashing dog bones together. I'm freaking sampling pill bottles. I'm doing all kinds of weird things and making like sounds that I find unique and I really like, but also they make me feel really like I feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to make music unless I'm like really into it. And that's what I'm finding like, with the music I'm making now. I am super engrossed in it. I absolutely love it. It gives me goosebumps. I freaking love it. And I'm so stoked to just make music. I feel so excited about it. And that's why I feel like as an artist, maybe that's finally getting to a stage where I feel comfortable because, you know, 20 years ago, putting out tracks, so I would be so trepidatious and like, geez, I hope people like this. Geez, man, like, hope it goes okay. Like, I'm putting it out. I know it's pretty good. I think it's good, but like now I'm like, fuck that shit. Like, I'm making music for me. I absolutely love it, and hopefully it resonates with other people too. And the response that I'm getting now because of the sheer uh, the technology and what we've been talking about, the fact that people can share so easily. I've been getting wicked response from around different pockets of the world that I normally wouldn't have exposure to, man. Like Argentina, like all these cool spots in Germany, Spain, all these cool little pockets of little delirious heads. It's rad, man. And so it gets me stoked to just like keep doing what I do and do my own thing and keep pushing forward and just really, you know, stick to my guns and do what I like because I know that at the end of the day, if it resonates with you and you're doing your art and you're being true to yourself, it doesn't really matter what other people think. But however, if it's good, they are going to like it and it's all beautiful and it all kind of comes together. It's a really cool treat to see that. I love seeing when you're like getting supported by other artists that you look up to, like a DJ that you think is amazing and they're like they chart your track or you know, you get put on a cool radio show that you think is amazing. Like all these little cool, they're like victories. They're like little uh for your ego, like little like, yes, good job, bro. You're doing great. Like keep it just it makes it worthwhile, even though to be completely honest, even if I didn't put any music out, I still would do it. Like simple as that. I just love it.
Incredible. Tremendous. It
Thanks,
makes me
brother.
want to press play immediately on your music.
Ah, nice.
Such mighty words filled with awesome sauce. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us tonight. I wanna get off and start listening to some Jon Delerious, and I bet you everybody else does too. So before we get running, where do we check out Jon Delerious online? What portal should we be hitting?
Well, right now I've been having a lot of fun every Saturday night playing on Twitch. So twitch.tv/Jon Delirious. Maybe we'll share a post after
I
this
had
of
no
what
idea you
we
were
think.
there. Yeah, I'm gonna. I've gotta. Let's
I'm
attach
playing in an
after.
hour. I'm playing in an hour. I got to get
Let's
my
attach.
poop in a
Yeah,
group
I
here.
well then do me a favor and smack me up on a text or something before that happens so I
Sure.
can. I have to. I think there's a way I can share it on the
Hey,
page, which
man.
would make sense now that everybody's obviously listening to you, us, and you want to hear Jon. Then that's going to be tonight in an hour from now. And where else? I cut you off because I'm obviously
Oh
upset.
no, it's all good, brother. So yeah, Twitch Saturday
Cheers.
nights, 9 to 11 Mountain Time, which is 11 p.m. Eastern till later, I guess, for our friends out east. And then Monday mornings, I'm doing a Twitch show as well. I'm basically until we can do gigs again, it's kind of like my Twitch has become my cool little outlet just for jamming and getting some interaction. I've been having a lot of
Your
fun with
house for house?
my house for house, baby. Let's do
Your
it. And
house for
so
house.
yeah, it's been fun. And then, of course, just the usual stuff like putting music out on Beatport, TrackSource, iTunes, uh, all the main places you can go and check stuff out. Please check it out. That'd be great.
I'm in line for one of those checks. Totally amazing. Wow. Pleasure. Love seeing you.
You
Feels
too,
like
Josh.
it's been yeah way too long. Okay, and it's good to have someone absolutely handsome on the show. I've got Jon Delerious with us right here in the utility room. You are absolutely special. We totally love having you with us with the show. If you like what you're seeing, watch, like, share, subscribe, do all the things that are necessary to keep the vibe alive. My name is Jello, and we'll see you next.